Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Talk About It Tuesdays with Conversations with Taz. Be sure you like, share, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on, and share this with a friend. Bring them on over here. Now, so much is going on. First of all, if you missed it, the terrorism charges against Luigi Mangione have been dropped. For further details on that, I do have it posted here and on TikTok. But here's what we learned about the shooting of Charlie Kirk. From UVU security on September 10th, there was security placed at an elevated position. They were supposed to be there to be looking for snipers, but they did not notice the suspect until after the shot was heard. And then only that officer went to go check out what was going on and to investigate the scene, and went to precisely where he thought that where he saw the assailant run from, but didn't chase the suspect, just went to the place and looked around. And now they're claiming that that officer saw the clues that they previously said that they gathered after the fact. I think they've forgotten just how many times they've been on TV and how much they told. And they may want to stop protesting so much because they're releasing all this information, which would be detrimental to the prosecution's case. But they're contradicting, Utah, FBI. Y'all can go back and look at the game footage. You're trying so hard to make this a left-right thing. You can't keep up with your lies, and you're damaging the reputations of multiple people at once. I don't know about them, but I would be sued. And I would be speaking to everybody that I could get in contact with. Because this is beyond, and I mean beyond, ridiculous. Like, if this is so cut and dry and you have all of this information, you don't have to lie. And to keep acting as if you're speaking on behalf of the suspect after it's come out that the suspect is not cooperating with you. Now, Kash Patel was on Capitol Hill today. And he claims that Epstein only trafficked young girls to himself. Once again, the footage is here and on TikTok. Feel free to peruse. And Patel also said regarding the Charlie Kirk shooting that there are at least 20 other people that they're looking into. Okay. You mean the 20 people in the Discord server that magically appeared out of nowhere? You know what? Whoever the suspect, Tyler Robinson's friends are, they can keep a secret better than anybody. Because with all this pre-planning that Utah is proclaiming that this man did, that was in writing, nobody said anything. Only one person is cooperating fully with the investigation, but this person doesn't seem to have any firsthand information, just a picture here, a picture there. And evidently, although it was previously confirmed that Tyler lived at home, he had a roommate. We don't know how he had a roommate, was able to sustain himself, but him and his roommate / love interest had the weirdest relationship ever, that they never spoke to each other. How convenient for law enforcement that every time they spoke, it was through text. Like, they bumping uglies, but there's no pillow talk. It's immediate text. They're in the same home, but they never speak to each other. It's always text. And I have fairy wings sprouted out of my back. We're gonna get more to that in a minute. We're gonna bounce around and mix it up a little bit. And just a reminder, be sure to join me every day, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central, for the Taz Effect, your daily dose of news in a manner you didn't think you could use. Coming from the BBC, tomorrow is going to be a big day, Trump says, as he arrives in the UK for his second state visit. So, U.S. President Donald Trump has arrived on British soil this evening ahead of his unprecedented second state visit to the UK. After landing at London Stansted Airport on the U.S. presidential plane, Air Force One and his wife Melania made their way by Marine One helicopter to central London. They will be staying at Winfield House on the outskirts of London's Regent's Park tonight, the U.S. ambassador to the UK's house. Tomorrow, King Charles III will meet President Trump at Windsor Castle to start the two-day UK state visit. On Thursday, it's off to the Prime Minister's country residence, Chequers, where he will be visiting with Keir Starmer. It's a historic moment. Trump is the first U.S. president to be granted a second state visit to the UK. We'll be bringing you, there'll be full coverage tomorrow. But here's the thing. There are a lot of protests going on, and they're doing their best to keep Trump away from the protests because they know he has a pretty fragile ego. And right now, is this the best time to be going so he can fulfill off of his bucket list his obsession with the royal family and hobnob with them again so he can have something to brag about? No, the rest of Europe is scrambling. Well, I don't want to say scrambling. They're diligently trying to figure out a way to help the Ukraine at the moment. And the POTUS is going to fangirl over King Chuck the Cuck. But at least we got proof of life on Melania. Now we've got some updated information on the Menendez brothers. This is coming from the Los Angeles Times. Menendez brothers won't get new trial. Judge rejects petition over sexual abuse claims. And before y'all, because some of y'all some good conspiracy theorists, because I see y'all in the comment section going crazy. They are a victim. They are. So much of a victim that they couldn't tell you that they were a victim until they saw other people getting off on charges connected to being victims. But okay. If you say so. If you say so. Yeah. A judge has rejected Eric and Lyle Menendez's petition for a new trial, ruling that evidence showing they suffered sexual abuse by their father's hands would not have changed the outcome of the murder trial that has put them in prison for more than 35 years for gunning down their parents. The ruling handed down by Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge William C. Ryan on Monday is the latest blow to the brothers' bid for release. Both were denied parole during lengthy hearings in late August. The habeas corpus petition filed on behalf of the brothers in 2023 argued they should have been able to present additional evidence to the trial that their father, Jose Menendez, was sexually abusive. They could have. They chose not to. I'm old enough to remember watching the trial. Nobody prohibited them. The new evidence included a 1988 letter that Eric Menendez sent to his cousin, Andy Cano, saying he was abused into his late teens. Which means the abuse stopped. So even putting that evidence in, there were also allegations made by Roy Rosselló, a former member of the boy band Menudo, who claimed Jose Menendez raped him. The brothers have long argued they were in fear of their lives, that their father would keep abusing them and that their parents would kill them to cover up the nightmarish conditions in their Beverly Hills home. So the parents were prepared to take the boys out, but the boys were able to get the drop on the parents, and the boys were full-grown adults that could have been moved out. And no, I'm not victim blaming, but they could have moved out. And what did they do to celebrate their new freedom? Spend it up, spend it up. That's part of the reason why the suspicion was on them. But if the abuse had already stopped and the parents were getting elderly and you could have moved out. But they didn't move out because, it was financial abuse. You could have went out and made your own money. And once again, not victim blaming, but at some point, we got to look at the facts as the facts. Prosecutors contended the brothers killed their parents with shotguns in 1989 to get access to their massive inheritance and have repeatedly highlighted Eric and Lyle's wild spending spree in the months that followed their parents' death. On top of the fact that Lyle and Eric, it has been documented, it has been confirmed that they have lied multiple times. Lied to avoid accountability, lied to get lesser consequences, lied to get out of prison. Like, come on. And right now they're tugging at the heartstrings of victims, especially male victims, randomly writing people, sending cards, trying to get their story out there. What's not clicking? What's not clicking? Let's not forget the gentleman who convinced a woman, no, I didn't kill my first wife. Oh, yes, please marry me while I'm in prison and come have a conjugal visit. And he killed her. Let's not forget the woman who forgave the person, the man who killed her sister, I believe. And she's like, oh, no, he told me this. He got out of prison, moved in with her, and killed her. Like, what do you expect criminals to do? Yes, I understand there are innocent people in prison. But when all signs point to a heinous act, come on. Because if it was fear and the father was the aggressor, what made these boys, grown men at the time, think that their mother would kill them? If the father was so egregious and so abusive, why didn't they view their mother as a victim? And why did it take both? How did they get the courage to both of them get the shotguns and shoot their parents? Neither piece of evidence add to the allegations of abuse the jury already considered, yet found that the brothers planned, then executed that plan to kill their abusive father and complicit mother, Ryan wrote. The court finds that these two pieces of evidence presented here would not have resulted in a hung jury, nor in the conviction of lesser instructed offense. Ryan agreed with Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman that the petition should not grant the brothers a new trial because the abuse evidence would not have changed that fact that they had planned and carried out the execution-style killings. Not to mention, the evidence doesn't prove abuse. Just want to put that out there. Like, I need people to stop acting as if everything it works the way that it does when you just gossiping and talking shit about somebody, or when you're starting online beef and drama. Because we know when a gossip gets good gossip, they don't care if 1 + 1 doesn't equal up to 2. They don't care if things don't make sense. They don't care if the evidence isn't actual evidence. Just like online, you can put anything behind you and say whatever. Nobody's going to pay attention to what's behind you. They're going to listen to what's there, or they're just going to look at what. It's not that easy to manipulate in the real world, especially when you're talking about litigation. So sitting there going, well, I wrote a letter to my cousin and told them that this was happening. So the rest of your family did nothing. So if you killed your mother and you felt that she was just as abusive as your father, allegedly, that your father was allegedly abusive, but you killed your mother because you felt that she was complicit, why do you call said cousin? Okay. A spokesperson for the group of more than 30 Menendez relatives who have been fighting for the brothers' release did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A spokesman for the district attorney's office was not immediately available for comment. What signatures do these family members need to get what they need to get? What were they promised? Because when released, I don't think people realize what opens up for the Menendez brothers. So what were these family members promised? Because if this many people got your back and they believe that you're innocent, where were they the first time around? So what was it that they haven't been able to access over the years that they can access now? The gruesome killings occurred after the brothers used cash to buy the shotguns and attacked their parents while they watched a movie in the family living room. So this wasn't like a moment, this wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't a moment of fear where somebody was actively being abused. No. So you just decide one day, you know what, we're going to go get these shotguns. And while they're watching this movie, we're going to off them. Instead of just taking that same money and moving the fuck out. Prosecutors said Jose Menendez was struck 5 times with shotgun blasts, including in the back of the head, and Kitty Menendez crawled on the floor wounded before the brothers reloaded and fired a final fatal blast. The petition rejected this week was one of 3 paths the Menendez legal team has pursued in seeking freedom for the brothers. Another judge earlier this year resentenced them to 50 years to life for the murders, making them eligible for parole after they were originally sentenced to life in prison. Both were denied release at their first parole hearing, but could end up before the state panel again in as soon as 18 months. Clemency petitions are still pending before Governor Gavin Newsom. Unfortunately for the Menendez brothers, the society that we live in today, it's highly doubtful that they will be released at this time. Do I personally believe that they should be released? No. Any family member that doesn't capitulate to them is in danger. Any potential or current romantic partners that gives them any pushback is in danger. And you have to realize they have no resumes. They have no CVVs. They have infamy. So where are they going to work? And let's not forget how entitled these two were. And from what I've been following, still are. Imagine the nightmare. Imagine the nightmare that they would be. Because they killed their parents to live comfortably. Like, let's not pretend like that didn't happen. And if you think that they're just, oh no, they're going to give up living comfortably all of a sudden. Okay. No. Everyone is abuzz with the potential of TikTok being banned, yada, yada, yada. First of all, in all technicality, TikTok has been banned, okay? The moment that you could not update or re-download or download for the first time TikTok from an app store, the ban was in place. The ban has been in place. What has happened is overall enforcement of the ban has not taken place. That's why you have periods of time where app stores will have TikTok available and times where they don't. Where there are times that you can update and times that you can't. It's been under a ban. This is all about enforcement. And Trump's going to keep, like Biden already said, but you goofy idiots don't like to pay attention. Already said, hey, we're just not going to enforce this. And now Trump is doing all this posturing to pretend like he really has the art of the deal and act like he's making all these spectacular deals with people. Absolutely not. So also coming from the BBC, deal is done to keep TikTok in the U.S., says Trump. Remember before there were all these stories, oh yeah, they got a U.S. buyer, it's going to be this, and it's going to have a name change, and it's going to look like this, and you know, Meta's involved, and this is why this is happening on TikTok, and this is what, I need y'all to stop. If you don't understand, technology and the evolution that happens in order to keep an app sustainable, that's fine. But let's stop making conspiracies out of everything, because you miss the obvious and you miss what you need to be focused on, because you are trying to make a great conspiracy out of everything because you think that you're Inspector Clouseau, and then if you solve the case, you will have your 15 minutes of fame. Please stop. I'm sure you have many other talents that you can utilize to become notable. But conspiracy theory is no. Let us go. A deal has been made between the U.S. and China to keep TikTok running in the U.S., according to President Donald Trump. We have a deal on TikTok. I've reached a deal with China. I'm going to speak to President Xi on Friday to confirm everything up, Trump told reporters as he left the White House for a state visit to the U.K. The social media platform, which is run by Chinese company ByteDance, was told it had to sell its U.S. operations or risk being shut down. However, Trump has repeatedly delayed the ban since it was first announced in January. That was not the first time it was announced. Later on Tuesday, he ordered the deadline extended again until December 16th. Doesn't have to be extended. Biden already said, we're not going to enforce this shit. The U.S. president said a buyer will be announced soon. The Wall Street Journal reported that under a deal negotiated between the U.S. and China, TikTok's U.S. business would be controlled by an investor consortium that would include tech company Oracle, private equity firm Silver Lake, and venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz. TikTok is already pejoratively owned by people within the United States. Once again, more posturing so he can get a pat on the back, but okay. In a new U.S. entity created under the deal, U.S. investors would hold a roughly 80% stake and Americans would dominate the board. They already do. Is anybody in legacy media in any country, are you going to be willing to be honest with the people? Can we stop writing things as if it's just now occurring? Can we stop sensationalize shit that's real basic and simple? Can we stop rage baiting, putting out disinformation? Just stop putting out lies. I can't. Okay, coming from the Charlotte Observer. Lying. Trump erupts over poll results. Recent polling data reveals significant public dissatisfaction with President Donald Trump's performance, driven by concerns over inflation, economic instability, tariff policies, and immigration measures. As of August 2025, these issues have heightened scrutiny on the Trump administration, with analysts cautioning that the Republican Party may struggle to maintain its congressional majorities in 2026 midterm elections. We know that they're going to lose. They know they're going to lose. All of these power grabs that have been, what did Ice Cube call it? Done with no Vaseline. It wasn't going to go over with anybody. Like, come on. If you're going to try to live the Reagan 2.0 life, if you're going to try to be the next Nixon, you got to take the country to dinner first, okay? You got to give the country a couple glasses of wine, okay? You got to sweet talk the country. You can't just come in like a wrecking ball, Miley Cyrus. Come on now. And that's what the GOP is doing. They're blatantly lying to Americans, to U.S. residents and citizens' faces, and they're doing everything so egregiously and so haphazardly, and they're showing just how mediocre racists are. They are killing every talking point they've had up until this point. They are killing every white nationalist movement that they've had up until this point. Because the racists know the only way to keep these talking points going forever is never make a move to change the legislation behind these talking points. Never do that. 2, always keep the darkies around to blame and to steal information from and to get free labor out of. And in droves, this administration has gotten rid of all of that. Like Abortion was supposed to be a forever talking point for the GOP. Trump took that away. These people knew that what they were saying was BS. Talking about the politicians and the clergy. But they knew that they were influencing other people, and they could still fundraise off of this. They could find political power off of this. All of these things. Well, that's been taken away. It's just like the suffragettes and the temperance movement women, when they joined the abolitionist movements and they're like, let's become feminists, where they just got into those arenas and got into those organizations to derail them. They needed slavery to continue so that they could continue to travel the country and travel the UK and not be at home with their husbands, because that's not where they wanted to be. They weren't attached to men that they loved. They didn't want to be mothers. They wanted to have careers, but at the time they couldn't. And they wanted to appear to be good people. This is why they never outright called for a change in the legislation. This is why they never outright helped with the Underground Railroad or donated to the cause. They wrote newsletters and gave speeches. But history looks upon them as so kind, and they are considered activists. As of August 2025, these issues have heightened scrutiny on the Trump administration, with analysts cautioning that the Republican Party may struggle to maintain its congressional majorities in the 2026 midterm elections. A recent Quinnipiac poll from August 27, 2025, reported a net approval rating of minus 18 points, underscoring the growing political headwinds. White House Assistant Press Secretary Liz Houston, however, defended the administration, asserting that Trump is delivering on his campaign commitments. Polling results present a mixed picture. An Insider Advantage survey reported 54% approval versus 44% disapproval, while the American Research Group found 38% approval against 59% disapproval. The Real Clear Politics average continues to reflect a negative overall approval poll. In response to unfavorable polls, Trump has criticized polling organizations, writing, "These people should be investigated for election fraud." And add in the Fox News pollster while you're at it. He added, "They are negative criminals who apologize to their subscribers and readers after I win elections big, much bigger than their polls showed I would win. Lose a lot of credibility and then go on cheating and lying for the next cycle. Only worse. They suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, and there is nothing that anyone or anything can do about it." I need to correct an assessment. For years, I just considered and called Trump a liar. But there's something I did not consider. Trump could pass a polygraph because Trump believes that what he is saying is the truth. Trump has just completely broken with reality. Since nobody told him he was a good boy, since nobody told him he was doing a good job, he has created a safety universe where he's never in the wrong, where he is the smartest guy in the room, where everybody cowers to him and everybody's loyal to him and nobody does anything better than him. But he does it in such a toddler-esque way where he has to keep reminding you that him is the goodest boy and him is the bestest boy and nobody could ever do it better than him. Yeah. The best of anything does not need to be marketed. Nobody has to be reminded that they are. But in a country, well, this is also part of why Trump does what he does. it feels the way that it does, because in this country, it's not set up for white people to take accountability for anything. They're taught that from a very young age. It doesn't matter if it makes sense. It doesn't matter if it pertains to the person. It doesn't matter if they're around or not. You're not responsible for what you do. Blame it on a black person, because it has to be their fault. Why do you think we brought them over to this country? Think I'm joking? Let's go over this.
We don't feel like ourselves. We haven't felt like ourselves in a while.
What does ourselves feel like? What does it feel like? Dominant? Able to be overtly and covertly racist, depending on what part of the country you're in? Feeling superior without putting any effort into it? I don't want to presume. Let's continue.
I'm sorry to get political, but I'm just going to be honest.
Isn't that your whole job, to be political? Isn't that why people tune in to see your face and to hear your voice? Okay.
We haven't felt like ourselves since Barack Obama.
What did you feel like before Barack Obama? Did you feel like a good person because you could better hide your racism and your disdain, where all you had to do was complain about your black supervisor or the black manager at the store that won't let you defraud the company, as you traditionally would keep complaining and claiming that everything that you got was damaged or you never got it and they knew that you did? Now that you had a president of the United States that was black and was getting things done in spite of all the pushback and BS that y'all were putting in front of him, you were feeling some type of way. You thought that you weren't like Mama, and you found out that yeah, you are. You're her spitting image. You thought that a country that still carries the flag of a traitorous country that lasted 4 years was a good place to be. A place that calls the Confederacy heritage. But the heritage and the history of the Confederacy is not patriotic to the United States. And people still have the battle cry of the Confederate. The South will rise again. The South never rose. The South got mollywopped into compliance. But let's continue.
I just think he was such a slick snake.
Are you describing Obama or Trump? Because Trump thinks he's a slick snake. Y'all be the slick snakes for him, but okay.
You know, he was this affable guy who was like wearing good suits and looked the part and sounded the part and dressed.
So you are going to diminish this Ivy League educated man who also served in Congress, who was an activist in his hometown of Chicago, legitimately grassroots, climbed his way up, just looked the part. He looked good in a suit and he knew the pretty words. Did you not understand the words that were coming out of his mouth? Are you so used to poorly dressed, uniform bound, cartoon character, villain looking ass presidents that you just, you know what? How many times did you flick the bean to Obama? I won't tell nobody. I won't tell too many people. I won't tell nobody after tonight.
The part, but was so divisive in his messaging. The left, they look at
you. His messaging was hope. His messaging was hope. You aligned with the people who started the birtherism movement, then apologized for birtherism. The right immediately started hanging this man in effigy. To this day, they still want to blame him for everything, call his wife and children monkeys, say that his wife is a man. But yeah, him existing, so divisive.
You like when you say this, they don't know what you're talking about. It's
because we don't, because you're insane in the membrane.
Like, because you don't pay attention to the other half of the country.
We pay attention to the whole country. It's y'all that don't pay attention to more than half of the country, because if it ain't what, it ain't in your sight.
You only pay attention to your absurd news sources, which...
there we go. The projection. We know You all condition your viewers not to view outside of you. You condition them not to research anything, that you are the end all to be all, and you should be trusted. Because look at you. You have gender affirming cared yourself into the eugenics princess of the ball. And those traditional values that you talk about, you don't ascribe to because, well, you have a job. And you're crude and not very ladylike, not very demure, nor are you very smart. Dishonor you bring to your whole life.
Spin and spin and spin to protect Democrats, especially.
What Democrat gets protected? The left protects no politicians. Some children, yes. Victims of abuse, yes. LGBTQ, absolutely. Politicians, oh hell, oh no, we'll stone all of y'all.
If they're named Obama,
where is Obama's protection? Once again, that man has been in office since when? Y'all keep bringing him up and blaming him for stuff. Most recently, because his wife, who recently lost her mother, took some time for self-care, and y'all proclaimed that he was gay, they was getting divorced, she was a man. Where's his protection? The only ones that are getting protected is the Trump family. Y'all work overtime to contort yourself more than a German pretzel to try to avoid accountability and consequences for that raggedy family. They break a law, you try to act like that law don't exist. Or it shouldn't exist. Or it wasn't that bad. Girl, like you do know the rest of us. You know, this type of journalism, it was great before we had the internet the way that we have now. It was great before we had diversity and we had late night news and everything. It was great when the last bit of news was 11 o'clock and it wasn't so much national. Like the last national bit of news you had was like between 5 and 6:30. And nobody could cross-reference anything. Like they could position stunts so that the headlines in the newspapers would read a certain way. Because, you know, the newspapers were damn near at every major corner. And most people, just like we see now, would just catch the headline and keep going. But nowadays, when things can be fact-checked, yeah, we're not lazy like your listeners and viewers. We want the truth, and we'll get it by any means necessary. But keep going, Misc.
He's the one who started to inject race where no one had been doing it.
Name a point in time in history, honestly and truthfully, in the history of this blood-drenched soil where race was not implied. And it is amazing that the descendants of the creators of the concept of race and the hierarchy and systems of racism are always the first ones to bring up and talk about race. And then as they do it, turn around and claim that some black person brought it up first. Girl, bleach seep through your skull.
He's the one who started to use his pen and the phone to shove things down our throat that we...
What did he write or call us about in regards to race? I remember him saying that we're all Americans. I remember him calling for peace and unity. I remember him asking for understanding. But what did he write into legislation? What did he pick up the phone and call all of America, all of the United States for?
Didn't want. He's the one who shoved through an entitlement on our health care and our personal...
Who didn't want it? You should have talked about an entitlement. You pay taxes. The whole point of paying federal taxes is for those federal tax dollars to work for you. So you don't feel like you're entitled to decent health care? You're saying that's not what you wanted? Or you just didn't want it for everybody? Because to this day, people are still screaming about having better comprehensive health care. But yeah, you know what? And your viewers will eat it up. They will eat it up as if they ain't got diabetes, heart disease, Crohn's, everything else, and they need a little help. They shook us all out of whack. Go on, girl.
Doctor visits that he promised he wouldn't mess with, and then he did, really hurting people.
Nope, he didn't hurt people. Greedy health insurance companies hurt people. But you all weren't honest about that because you intentionally voted for politicians that would take out safeguards that were supposed to be in that bill to cap prices where healthcare companies could not further take advantage of the average Joe, of patients / consumers. And you all think that it gives you this moral authority. Just you're so happy it keeps making you money that you are lying to people that you watch die every day. You say protect the children, but you do stuff like this that harms children, that propels children onto the bosom of their ancestors way too early. But you don't care. As long as you get that coin to keep that nice penthouse, get you a yacht, and keep up that gender-affirming care so that you can look like the eugenics princess that would have wooed the socks off of Adolf Hitler.
Causing massive anger and open lies. He never missed an opportunity to twist the knife on the racial issue. He would do it subtly and in his own way, but it was very clear what he was doing. For the first time we had a president.
Oh, it was so subtly, but also so clear. He was twisting the knife. Was it when he was defending himself against being called unqualified, by his citizenship being questioned, by people flying all the way out to another continent to ask about a half-brother that he hadn't spent time with? So that half-brother could proclaim that, he didn't vote for Barack, although he does not live in the United States.
Okay. Who weighed in on legal cases before they'd played out.
Now you're talking about Trump, because Barack Obama didn't weigh in on legal cases before they played out. Were there times where there was civil unrest in the nation while he was POTUS? Yes. And what did he speak up on? He spoke up and asked for peace. He spoke up and asked for cooler heads to prevail. But you don't want to tell that because you act as if the internet isn't fucking forever.
Never did that. That was a taboo that had never been crossed before.
What? Are you on crack? Are you on crack? Or do you just enjoy lying? Oh, that's right. You will lie to the end of time to preserve whiteness. Carry on.
Him. And Donald Trump was the reason Barack Obama, reverse that. Barack Obama was the reason Donald Trump came about. That he was.
Ah, yes. Yeah, Donald Trump was the reason that Barack Obama received all that hate. You came so close to accidentally telling the truth. And yes, thank you for admitting that you racist cucklefucks decided to vote in the worst plausible candidate ever in the history of politics as retaliation for a Black man daring to achieve the presidency by vote, Democratic vote, in the United States. Y'all were so hurt and needed to prove your racism and cement your dominance over the darkies that you didn't even choose a good, viable candidate. There were a plethora of viable white candidates for you to choose from, but you chose the worst. And once you all realized you could not control the worst candidate, you didn't remedy the situation, because a good racist can never let those that they are trying to or currently oppressing know that they effed up and don't know what they're doing. Dishonor to all y'all undercarriages. But let's wrap this up, honey bunches. I got other stuff to do.
Was born as a political figure. They say Trump's divisive. He was the antidote. He was the answer.
How's he the antidote? He is divisive. That's all he does is divide. He divides sense from intelligence. He divides calories from he combines calories to his blood, but he divides good smells from the room. He divides democracy. He divides Professionalism. That's all he does. He forcibly divides legs. He divides companies into ruin.
To the divisiveness of Barack Obama.
Yeah, you choked on that because you know you lied. But gotta make that money because you don't have any real discernible talents.
And we just haven't felt like ourselves for years.
No, you haven't felt like yourself for years because you don't like your hair being blonde. You don't like them Utah curls that they put in your hair from time to time. And you really don't like saying good shit about Trump and capitulating to him, especially after he repetitively disrespected you and caused you to lose your job. But you're a white woman in the US of A. You really don't want to work, but your ass is gonna pull in more than anybody else you could be with. So gotta do what you gotta do. She got a tap dance for Monday.
Now, we don't feel like ourselves. We haven't felt like ourselves in a while.
Mm-hmm. Goofy help us say what? I said this before, I'm going to say it again. Some people say trust but verify. My thing is, and I have recently, in the past few months, started this journey. No matter what I hear, no matter what I say, I look at it as, do I really understand what's going on? Do I know the definition of this word, or did I try to put it together out of context? Verify things as if you are a blank slate, that you don't know any of it. Go back and look at these things. Because so much, especially now, has been happening all at once that you can mix some things up. You can forget about some things. But don't fall prey to the echo chamber. Diversify. And weed through. When everything has to be sensationalized. But as always, thank you for joining me. I will see you all fresh tomorrow at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central for the Taz Effect. The news in a way you didn't think that you could use. And as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Let me leave you with this.
And they posted these very powerful images of history makers walking the runway at a recent New York Fashion Week event. Ilyasa Shabazz, Malcolm X's daughter, and Dr. Bernice King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, were walking side by side. Then you had Cecil J. Williams looking as cool as ever. Back in 1956, he was photographed drinking from a whites-only water fountain. Then, of course, you have Benjamin Haith Jr. He created the Juneteenth flag. And look who else came through. Ruby Bridges. Back in 1960, she became the first African-American child to integrate all white schools. And as a former track and field runner, I loved seeing Tommie Smith and John Carlos there. In 1968, after medaling in the Olympics, they raised their gloved fists in protest of racial injustice and also to bring awareness to poverty. Because of them, we can. What a beautiful tribute.